Well, it is that time again, isn't it? It is Garden America time as we begin the weekend together. Good morning, I'm Brian Main. Tiger Palafox. Tiger's got an empty seat to the left of him. The seat is also empty to my, well...
You're right.
Just to my right, yeah, but mostly looking straight at him, but him's not here.
We are missing John this morning, right?
And where is John? I think he told us, but what's he doing?
Is right now his trip to Hawaii?
Is it really?
Is
already?
Is it, or is he going after the first year? I can't remember.
No, it's January.
It's January.
So
okay.
I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
we forgot it.
He's always off gallivanting somewhere.
He's never
having a good time.
really clear. He's a little vague on what he's doing.
Yeah.
And, in the business, people like to say that he's on assignment. Whenever you hear that, it just means somebody's taking time off.
Yeah. And then it's funny because the quote of the week would make you think he's on assignment too. But, we don't have too many assignments.
We don't have any assignments. This is our assignment right here. This is our assignment. So anyway, we are here, Tiger, myself, Brian Main. John is off this week. We hope you had a good week, surviving Thanksgiving. Now we're getting into the serious part of the Christmas season.
Yeah.
The serious part.
And surviving your birthday, too.
Yeah, which was Tuesday, this past Tuesday.
Last Tuesday,
I survived.
Right? You survived. You made it another year.
A lot of nice comments on Facebook.
The night before your birthday, is it ever like, ooh, what's going to happen tomorrow?
I forgot. You know what? I actually forgot. I got up the next day and, yeah. When you're a kid, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
You get older, it's like, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
You made it another year.
Yeah, exactly.
So
still got to go to work.
Still got to work, still got to pay the bills.
Exactly.
And still, but we love doing it, coming in the studio every weekend and doing Garden America with all of you fine people out there. Interesting shot of us, that high shot we've got this morning.
It's from our drone.
Yeah, we've got a special drone set up here in the studio. I'll give you a different perspective, though, of the studio and the board and how things look. So John's back next week. We are here. We've got a good guest lined up today. Somebody representing, is it Sunset Magazine?
Sunset Garden.
Sunset Garden.
Yeah, horticulture garden. Janet Sluis with Sunset's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about some plant selection for the upcoming year and also, new plants. It's always interesting to see what the next year is going to bring you in terms of ideas or plants or themes or all kinds of colors or whatever. And people need to remember that when we're talking about plants for 2024, big growers already have all of that planned.
Well, they started at least, 6 months ago at least?
Planning and all of that.
Yeah.
The orders have been placed. The plants have been started because, if you're looking at an 8 to 10 week growing cycle, January, February, then, come March, April, the product gets finished and then it's ready to be shipped to the retailers in May. So, they're starting. They, right after the holidays, they start moving into the next year. So they've already thought about what plants they're buying, how many they're buying, the style, the colors, all of that stuff.
Now, you said something interesting this morning before we went on the air, because I was telling you how busy I'm going to be right up until Christmas.
Yeah.
And you said that week before Christmas, you're basically, the nursery's done. People have their trees, and you kind of settle in.
Yeah. People have their Christmas trees. People have their poinsettias, their decorations, and all of that. So we go back to a nursery where people are buying more of the plants, flowers, shrubs, fertilizers, soils, and all that. So the week before Christmas, it's kind of, we're ready to move on to the next year.
Yeah, you're moving on to whatever's the first holiday of the year, which I guess Valentine's Day, maybe to some extent.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Right. February. Whatever. Nothing really in January.
Good to hear from a lot of people tuned in this morning watching us on Facebook. Somebody, I forget who it was. Let me see here real quick. It was a hello from Northern Arizona, my old stomping grounds, because I went to school at NAU. So this time of the year's got to be cold and maybe some snow in the Flagstaff or Northern Arizona area. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching us on Facebook Live. And a big thank you to those on Biz Talk Radio each and every week, our network affiliate, Biz Talk Radio, Biz Talk TV, and those affiliates across the country who tune in each week. And a big thank you to our newest affiliate from Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear from people throughout the week where they caught our show, what they found interesting when they caught the show.
Exactly.
So, please share your thoughts on our Facebook page. You can write us a message or you can just post on one of our links. We have wonderful information that gets posted up there weekly by our, web and social media guy, Daniel. We always talk about him and give him praises for all the
Absolutely.
things he does.
He makes all this happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the different ways you can watch or listen, I should say, to the show, whether it's one of our podcasts on Google, Spotify. Alexa will certainly play our latest show if you ask her to. So a lot of ways to listen and watch us, but be sure to go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Even just check in. We've got the Costa Rica trip. The itinerary is up there. So if you want to go to Costa Rica with us in April, best bet, go to our website, check it out, check out the articles, and be sure to like everything that you see regarding Garden America, if indeed you do like it. If you don't like it, then let us know that too. We take it both ways.
We like the likes and dislikes because it helps us grow.
Thank you for the birthday wishes, those on Facebook right now. I had a good birthday, so again, thank you.
What, I don't know if you had, and I don't mean to put you on the spot for this, but a birthday dinner, if you had a choice, what is like your ooh, it's my birthday, I get to pick whatever I want to eat tonight. What are you eating or where are you going?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm eating, whether it's at home or at a restaurant.
Okay.
I'll take a filet. I'll take a baked potato, sour cream, and chives.
So you're a steak dinner guy.
Back to the old, the template for, what they say a lot of guys like. But I eat healthy. I don't eat that. I may have steak once every couple of months.
Yeah.
I'm not a big red meat guy, but if you're going to give me a special occasion, I'll take the filet. I'll take the baked potato. It'll be my cheat night.
Yeah.
And that pretty much sums it up. What about you?
I'm a fish guy. So
all right.
I will take some kind of well seasoned prepared fish. I'm not like a plain fish guy. Like I'm not just going to eat salmon or I want it to have like some kind of like coconut crust or.
You like shark?
Yes, love shark.
It's funny, that used to be a joke years ago, eating shark, and then people discovered how good it is.
Yeah.
Calamari, I like calamari.
Ooh, one of our faves.
Red snapper is pretty good. Back in the day when you could afford it, abalone.
Yeah.
And now you've got to go to an abalone farm because we fished them all out of the ocean.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Exactly. That used to be a real popular
it's a delicacy.
Fish.
Very good.
I guess shellfish out of Southern California, right?
Right.
You go to New Mexico, you go in off the coast of San Diego, you used to be able to find abalone. Now, no more.
No, they have
no more.
They have, I guess, abalone farms.
Yep.
And it's very expensive. And I think calamari kind of took the place of abalone.
Much easier.
Well,
much
years
easier.
ago when I was first told, this restaurant said, "Yeah, we don't serve abalone anymore, but hey, there's something called calamari. It's just like abalone. It's close.
Close.
Not the real thing." All right, speaking of the newsletter, which we haven't, but let's speak of the newsletter right now, the quote of the week.
All right, this is a quote that John has prepared for us, kind of off on assignment. And
John's off on assignment. I love that.
He says, or not he, but the quote of the week is, "No one can feel the wonder of it all more keenly than the plant hunter. For him, each new valley or mountain pass is a gateway into an undiscovered paradise." And that was by Frank Kingdon Ward. And, it's just kind of the idea that as a plant hunter, wherever you go, you're always looking for something new. And so every time you go on a hike, every time you go to a different place, your eye is trying to pick out something new. And I definitely see that whenever I'm even just going through neighborhoods, because I love to just see people's yards. So as I'm driving through a neighborhood, as I'm walking through a neighborhood, just
don't hop the fence.
Please, yeah, exactly.
What's that guy doing in our yard?
But yeah, so quote of the week.
And I would imagine, just like you talk about the various species of animals, so on and so forth, that haven't been discovered. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a lot of plant material, plants we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
You'd think.
Yeah.
But, just like the ocean, we don't know anything about the ocean. We know more about space than we do about the ocean right here on Earth.
Yep, exactly. So, we're still searching, we're still finding, which is kind of fun. I'm sure it's a lot harder as a plant hunter nowadays to find something new. I think the breeders are probably doing more than the plant hunter, but still kind of neat, still kind of fun.
So we got a break coming up here. On the other side, though, we'll be talking to Janet Sluis. Sluis.
Yep. And we'll be talking about this year's up-and-coming plants, talking about some perennial choices, plant choices that you make, and how to improve your landscape at your home.
Right. So get your questions, your comments ready, those on Facebook Live. And I see a lot of our Facebook viewers right now are talking back and forth with each other. They've got a chit-chat going on, which is great. You don't have to necessarily pinpoint your comments or suggestions or questions to us. Love to see the conversation going on. So as Tiger mentioned, we're going to take a break. Our guest coming up next, talking about some upcoming plants and what to look for. So again, do stay with us. Welcome those on Biz Talk Radio. We do appreciate you tuning in each and every weekend. 2 hours of Garden America. Hopefully you get both hours. If not, one or the other, that's fine too. So that said, speaking of Biz Talk Radio, Garden America, I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox. We're going to take a break. Coming back after these messages for you and our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we are back from the break. Thank you for tuning in. It's yours truly, Brian Main, and his truly, that would be Tiger Palafox. John is off this week. I think we got most everything out of the way, Tiger, as we continue now with Garden America and bringing up our guest this morning. Janet's ready to go.
Yeah, Janet's been on our program before. Janet's a Berkeley-based horticulturist specializing in low water, regionally appropriate, and easy-to-care plants. She also helps out with the Sunset Western Gardening book. Janet joining us from Berkeley this morning. How is the weather up by you right now?
Well, we're actually a little rainy today, which is great.
Okay, because we're getting all over the place right now with this time of year. I mean, I've been watching the weather patterns. Southern California, we've got a little bit of rain, a little cool weather. Now we're warming again. And same thing for you. You've kind of been up and down as well, right?
We have been. In fact, there's no real rain in the 10-day forecast, which is not normal for December, but so we'll take all the rain we can get.
Yeah, definitely. And, speaking of weather, though, one of your specialties is picking out plants that are more regionally appropriate. And when you talk about regionally appropriate plants, I think the first thing that comes to mind is weather, right? Like whether the plants like it dry, whether the plants like it wet, hot, cold. What are some other things that make a plant regionally appropriate?
There's so many microclimates. I mean, even just within Berkeley where I live, if you are up in the hills, you're going to have more fog because the fog collects up there, and so you'll have a little bit more of a drip, maybe more shade because the oaks are there than you would in the flatlands where I live, where things tend to be more sunny, a little bit drier, a little hotter. So obviously that all impacts how a plant responds to its environment, but wind is also a big issue, how close you are to the coast. If you're in a wind tunnel, if you're between, in a canyon or somewhere where the wind falls, how cold it gets in different areas. We know that cold air tends to sink into lower areas, so if you're in a low spot, you can get a hard frost, whereas your neighbors up the hill won't get that same cold.
Yeah, and wind is a funny thing because John, who lives in Fallbrook, was going to try to grow coffee at one point in time. And, and it grows in Fallbrook. The coffee plant does grow there.
Little too windy, huh?
But that's what they told him. It was too windy. And we're not talking a tornado wind. It wasn't. But just that high-intensity wind for that plant was too much for it because it's sensitive to the wind. And so that kind of blew my mind because I'm thinking you would think the plant would just toughen up or and like I say, it wasn't like a tornado wind, it was just more windy than what the plant really wanted. So it's interesting that you say wind because that is a variable I never considered for regional plants.
Oh yeah, and there's just so many factors. This is why I really encourage people to walk around their neighborhood and look at what's doing well for their neighbors, especially if you're new, if you're just moving into a new neighborhood. Just take some time to just walk around and see what plants you like in other people's gardens. There's great apps now. I mean, your phone can take a picture. You can bring it into a garden center. They can identify it for you. But, it's a really nice way to figure out what does well for you in your environment.
Yeah, definitely. Taking a walk around, seeing what is doing well, seeing what isn't doing well, and seeing what inspires you. And that's one of the other things that you do is, pick out plants that add more to your landscape than just a pretty flower. I mean, one of the pictures that we posted of you in our newsletter is of you holding a potted grass plant. I can't remember what it is, whether it's a lamandra or miscanthus or something, but what a great way to introduce something other than a flower, right?
Right. I've been kind of referring to myself as the Marie Kondo of gardening, and I really think that plants should spark joy. So many of us have this guilt about taking a plant out or letting a plant die, or what we buy a new house and we have something established there and we feel like we can't take it out. But plants really should do well for you on multiple levels. They should make you happy. You should go out to your garden and everything in your garden should make you happy. It doesn't necessarily have to be beautiful all the time, but it needs to not make you feel sad. I was in my Sunset Test garden in Menlo Park once, and this poor woman, she came in, I was working in the garden, and she started crying, and she said, I just spent a ton of money. I had this high-end designer come in, and he did this really, in his mind, a really beautiful garden, but there's no life to it. There are no birds. There's no butterflies. There's no flowers. So I come home and I cry. And I felt so bad for them. I think, people really need to think about what they want in their space before they hire an architect or a designer, or they go to the garden center to buy a plant. What do you want? Do you want to have birds and butterflies and bees? Or do you have allergies? Are you allergic to bees or have things that you don't want? These are things that you really need to think about. But for me, I want easy care plants. I don't water my plants. I don't fertilize my plants. I'm an organic gardener. That particular plant that you saw is a lamandra. It's Platinum Beauty. It's a native to Australia in the central part of Australia. So Australia is a big continent, and it has all kinds of climates. So just because a plant is from Australia doesn't mean that it's low water. But these are coming from an area that is very similar to California. They get winter wet and summer dry. So it can take standing water in the winter. We have it in the test garden in Sonoma where we can get 60 or 80 inches of rain, and they're literally sitting in water for months and months. And then in the summertime, they can go for 6 months with no water at all. And it's just an amazing plant. It's a variegated plant, and so in the wintertime, I love it this time of year because when it's kind of dark and stormy outside, it's bright, it lights up a spot in the garden, it has great momentum, it just kind of flows in the breeze. So it's a perfectly easy plant for us in California. It's just a great placeholder to add a little bit of color and form.
And then to add one other thing that I love about the lamandra variety too is, unlike the other grasses, miscanthus, fountain grass, pennisetums, I think that they require a trimming maybe a couple times a year, meaning, kind of cut them down, let the new foliage come out, because they can get some of that, dead inner growth happening into those grasses. The lamandra just always seems fresh, always seems clean. Like there's very minimal trimming, maintenance, resetting of that plant. Which, is like when you talk about low work, low effort, easy to take care of, you can't get much easier than planting it and then never touching it again, but getting all of the fun, all of the beauty, all of the color out of it, right?
Right. And I'll tell you a little funny story about that plant is the breeder of that plant is in New Zealand, and he shopped it around with many nurseries and different branded plant programs, and nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody thought that it had any market potential. So there are so many plants that don't make it into retail and don't actually ever get a chance to be in a garden here because there's just a few companies that bring plants in. It's a process. You have to go through the USDA. You want to make sure that you're not, we don't want to create any problems that have any pest issues or disease issues or invasiveness issues. So we're very, very careful about all of that. So, but there's a few people who really are making the decisions on what comes in and gets trialed and what doesn't.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to have to take a break. When we get back, we'll continue chatting with Janet from Sunset Horticulture, and talking about some new plants and talking about some ideas for plants in your garden.
Yeah, a lot still to come, and some very good things to discuss this morning in terms of learning and maybe some knowledge that you or even Tiger and I were not aware of. So do stay with us, those on Biz Talk Radio. Facebook Live, keep those questions, comments coming. You can talk amongst yourself, reach out, ask us a question, ask Janet a question as we continue. And again, it is Garden America taking a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. By the way, those on Biz Talk Radio, this is a pre-recorded show from last week. Do stay with us. Back after these messages. Welcome back to Garden America. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Hope you had a good break. That was our first break. We are into segment number 3 already here on this weekend, Saturday morning, or maybe you're listening to a pre-recorded show, whatever time it is. We appreciate you tuning in and checking us out, supporting Garden America. All right, Tiger, let's continue as we look forward to some of the new things happening the rest of 23 and, of course, into 2024.
Yeah. So, again, we're chatting with Janet, a Berkeley-based horticulturist that's talking about some different plant varieties, some new plant varieties, some different themes that you can do in your garden, wherever you're at. And, before the break, Janet, you had mentioned that the Lomandra plant, almost didn't get into market because there's wonderful plants out there and there's only a select number of growers, breeders that can actually distribute these plants kind of, countrywide, worldwide to some degree. So it's kind of a difficult thing. Now, the other thing that you and I chatted about, which is something people don't always think about either, is, there's all this talk about native, plant natives, be more regional specific. Now, you mentioned the Lomandra being native to Australia, which is very much in line with a lot of places in California and Southern California. And I mentioned how I love the plant, and you wouldn't find a Lomandra here in California because it's not native here, but it does a great job. It's not invasive. It can still provide all of the things sometimes a native plant will, but almost even better, right?
Right. I mean, California has 8,500 native plants, but most of them are from high rainfall areas. And if you really look at it, they are from the North Coast and the Sierras predominantly. So you can't take a ceanothus or an artostaphylos that is native to Eureka and plant it in San Diego and expect it to thrive. So, I'm starting to push back a little bit on the native. We had a bill introduced in California that came remarkably close to passing that would have required 70% native plantings in all commercial and any planting that was done through a landscaper or anything like that. And it was not even including cultivars. So it wasn't even saying, oh, this ceanothus is it's a native ceanothus, but it has a name to it. So it's a Joyce Coulter. So that's a selection. And so they wanted it to be seed only for biodiversity. We have seen in other areas, I mean, the reason that we feed the world now is with the plant breeding that have made our vegetables that we eat more productive. My family, I'm a 6th-generation seed family from the Netherlands, and what we eat today is not what we were eating even 100 years ago. And I think the flowers and the breeding that we see in perennials in particular now, they're providing so many more flowers and such a longer bloom period that, for the nectar source, sugar is sugar and nectar is nectar. If a hummingbird or a butterfly needs to have a sugar source, the more flowers we have per square foot, the longer time, the better it is for them to feed. And I think, going forward, I think there'll be more research on what's really important, and we'll start to get a little bit more information on that. But right now, the data really doesn't support natives except for the relationship between caterpillars and host plants. That is definitely proven. So if you want to contribute to your native butterfly population, I actually wrote the ending of a book my friend wrote on this very thing, is how to create a butterfly garden. Well, find out what butterflies are actually native to your area. Guess what? Monarchs aren't native to Berkeley. We never had them originally. So pick a couple hummingbirds that are actually native to where you are, find out what plants they need to lay their eggs on, and plant a few of those in your garden. That's important. But other than that, as long as you have a diverse, more colors, more different types of flower forms, and don't use pesticides. I think, we don't talk about pesticides enough. But the neonics and the systemics, any pesticide that says it's systemic or it's long-lasting or it's an all-in-one, those are all, the form of that pesticide goes into the plant. It's like goes into your bloodstream. And so anything that feeds on that plant is going to take that up, whether it's in the pollen, whether it's in the sap of the plant. And that's really much more detrimental to our native pollinators than what plant you're putting into your garden.
And it's funny you mentioned, pick something that's a more native bug species. And, you mentioned hummingbirds, but and they're a bird species, but also bees. I mean, people are like, the European bee, we got to get more bees. But there's a lot of native bees that nobody knows exist because they don't make hives like a normal bee does. And they're in our ground. They're in our, leaf mass and, all of that. And like you said, just provide them flowers. I mean, it would be nice to be able to provide them some kind of a native flower for your landscape, but not all natives bloom year round and they don't always thrive. Just because they're native doesn't mean it thrives here in California, kind of a thing. But if you can find that Australian native, that Mediterranean native, that different plant and it has blooms. I mean, Kufia, I'm trying to think if there's any native Kufia, but talk about a bloomer. I mean, those plants bloom like crazy, and hummingbirds and bees love them. And if you're talking about pollen or nectar, what a great way to incorporate that into your landscape, and you get the beauty of the plant as well.
Absolutely.
So lots of fun stuff. Hey, you had mentioned that one of the directions that you're kind of working on is kind of low maintenance too. So when you have this low maintenance idea, but also you're trying to incorporate this habitat, how does that work out for you?
Well, I think, we all need to look at our gardens as staggered. Most people have smaller yards now, but we do need trees. So that's an area that I'm really looking intensely at and working with different breeders on how do we get oak trees that are smaller that can fit into a garden space. We have some great crepe myrtles, Lagerstromias, that do offer that for certain parts of the country, and they're actually really good for pollinators, believe it or not. But we have to have some trees for the birds and to have a little bit of habitat. We need to have a couple of 6 to 8 to 12 foot shrubs that also for habitat, and then looking at filling in with color, whether it's a colorful shrub or flowers in that lower, maybe 3 foot to 1 foot range. So you kind of have to plan out your landscape a little bit that way. But in the past, this is a true story. I've been going to the new plant displays that all the breeders do for over 30 years now, and it used to be all about petunias. Petunias are the number one sold plant in the United States. The last data is from 2016. $263 million of petunias were bought in this country. But we're starting to see a little bit of that research dollars, because there's a lot of money tied up in that, in doing the breeding work and in getting that to market. We're starting to see that trickle down more into perennials, into shrubs, which is great. This is a really exciting time for plants, to be honest. I mean, look at hydrangeas, for instance. We used to just have these giant mop-head hydrangeas. Mm-hmm. They weren't cold hardy. They had to be pruned a certain way. Those big mop heads, not good for pollinators. And if you really want to have something that has that attribute for your garden, look at the oak leaf. Look at the lace caps. Look at the paniculatas. There's a white wedding paniculata. It actually got a moderate water use rating from UC Davis, which means that it can go for about 2 weeks once it's established with no water in Davis, which was hot. And we're talking 100 plus degree weather.
Yeah.
It's a lower growing paniculata, so it's only going to get to be about 3 or 4 feet tall in the landscape. But it has those open flowers that the pollinators like. You still can use it as a cut flower. It doesn't require fancy pruning. It is cold hardy down to zone 4. That's all new breeding work that's coming. You know, the traditional paniculatas, they could get to be 30 feet. And if you didn't prune them every year, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, right. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, they're making plants much better for us, but the plants are delivering much more. Hey, we are going to have to take a break, I think, in another minute.
Yeah, about a minute. Yeah.
About a minute. But we have a few comments and questions. Tanya wrote, I loved the link to the sunset garden plants. We included a link in our newsletter. And I found one I have to get, the Calocasia Royal Hawaiian Waikiki. Wonderful foliage plant, right? And what a great way to get color, get dynamic look without having a flower, right? The Calocasia?
Yeah, the Colocasia breeding coming is insane. This was the very first color break that they did as they brought pink into the colocasias. Well, next year they have a black and pink one called Redemption. And it was the breeder actually decided he was going to have a live Facebook auction for the first plant to be sold, and it went for $12,500.
Oh, my gosh.
So these are plants that you can use as a house plant, too. You can bring these into the house if you're in a cold climate and you need to, you buy an expensive plant. You don't want it to be 1 year.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, we have to take a break. When we get back, we'll continue chatting with Janet about some new plants coming up to the market.
Yeah, those on Biz Talk Radio. One more segment coming up before you've got news, top of the hour. Facebook Live, it'll be a much quicker break, so do stay with us. Any questions, comments here on our Facebook page as we continue our conversation with Janet this morning? Do so. Questions, comments, we will backtrack. If we missed you, we'll scroll back up and try to get to as many questions, comments as possible. And if we missed it, go ahead and repost it, and we'll get to you hopefully right away. Taking a break, back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. And just like that, we are back. Those on Facebook Live, those tuned in on Biz Talk Radio. By the way, Biz Talk Radio, final segment of hour number 1. News coming up. We come back at 6 minutes after. And again, 2 hours. Hopefully you get both hours. If not, one or the other should suffice. And we do appreciate you tuning in, Tiger, as we continue.
Yeah, and again, we're chatting with Janet Sluis with Sunset Horticulture. Hey, Janet, Leanne also mentioned, do you know some of those distributors of plants? And this was back when we were talking about that Lamandra. And are there any particular plant distributors, breeders that you kind of recommend for people to maybe begin to follow, or where to go to find out some of these new plants? Does Sunset have a new plant area on their website?
We do have a new plant area on our website, and I really recommend that you go to your local independent garden center and tell them what plant you want. Most of the time, if they don't have it in stock, they know where to get it, and they can order it for you. Sometimes plants are seasonal, so if they're not in bloom, we tend to not see them in the garden center, or it might be like a colocasia right now. It's too wet or cold, so you may not see those come back until the springtime. But a garden center can tell you when they can get it, who they can get it from, and they're usually really helpful for that.
Yeah, and then also, it kind of helps you not get your hopes too high. I told you we operate a retail garden center here in San Diego, and sometimes people come in and they say, hey, I found this plant online and I'd like to get it. And I look at it and go, that's not a plant that grows here. Sorry. They get all excited because, they see this plant, they want this plant, and, but if you go online, you get all excited and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the nursery, try to find this. And I'm like, oh no, that is an East Coast plant, or that is a, northern hemisphere plant.
Peonies in Southern California.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry to burst your bubble, but here is something that we can offer that's comparable maybe, but not that plant. And then also, going into the garden center, it's funny because I'm sure you've seen this coming from your background and your family's background. Starting with seeds. Seeds are amazing. Starting plants from seeds, it always, inspires me to be able to kind of do that. But, when people want to see the plant in bloom now, and that's kind of kind of a new thing where, you used to buy plants before they bloomed and then they bloomed in your garden. Are you kind of seeing that as well?
Well, there is when I worked for a large wholesale grower, that the motto we got from one of our largest customers was "No bloom, no room."
Yeah.
Don't ship a plant if it wasn't in bloom, and it's completely opposite of what a consumer should do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. You want that plant to develop its root system, to get established, to really get larger in your garden before it blooms, and then you can enjoy the entire time of the bloom cycle. The other thing we don't really talk about, the ugly side of horticulture, is how many annuals get thrown away before they even make it into a garden. It is really not a sustainable business model. I mean, we're growing these plants to have a sale window of 1 to 2 weeks. And if they don't sell in that time, they get thrown away.
And it's kind of like the grocery store food thing, right? Like on how much food we actually throw away. And I kind of feel like at least people, I think, feel a little bit bad when they buy food and they're thinking about it more. And if we throw away that much, but in plants, like you're saying, like they just put it on the shelf. And if it doesn't sell, it's got to go to the trash can because it's got to make room for that new plant that is blooming, right? Because
absolutely,
the growers have grown it for that 1 or 2 week. And then after that, it's got to make room for something that looks new. So, back to kind of like your principles of easy to maintain, low water, regional plants. Where do you find that balance of perennial, annual in the yard? Are you a strictly perennial gardener where you only introduce things that are like that, or do you incorporate annuals into your garden?
Personally, at this point in my life, I have very few annuals in my garden, and mostly, to be honest, mostly natives. I let them just self-seed. So I have California poppies, I have some lupins and things that just kind of reseed and come up here and there in the garden, and I let them be because I love them. But from the bones of the garden and designing the garden and having structure, I have gone to all perennials, just because I don't have the time to start from seed every year, and I don't buy annuals in bloom in a garden center because I know they're typically pretty heavily sprayed. So you have the chemical usage there, you have the water usage there, and I know that they're not necessarily going to perform well for me in my yard. So I tend to look for, there's great Gaillardia breeding. There's fanfare Gaillardias. It's a whole series of Gaillardias that were bred to be a true perennial. Now, there's another thing going on with annuals where they're breeding perennials. Really, they're annuals now. They're annualizing perennials, and there's a ton of Gaillardias on the market that they've kind of taken the perennial out of because they want them to bloom short, and they want them to bloom. And this is all to get them to a store easier. Rack quantities. They want them all these short plants to bloom fast, but they don't really care about what they do in the garden. So I think, as consumers, we need to be a little bit more aware of what we're buying and a little bit of research on that, because something like a fanfare will bloom in California 8 to 9 months out of the year, and it'll come back year after year, and they're beautiful. They're great for pollinators. It's a great perennial plant, and they're hardy to zone 4, so they can go pretty much cross country.
And me too with the annuals. As far as I've got annuals in my landscape, poppies, lupin, different ones that are more native, and I love it because they almost do what I can't do in the sense of they just put that pop of color in an area of my garden that I would have never have thought to do it. And I'm like, oh, look at a seed drop there, and now it's growing, and it's going to be really cool because it's right along my path, or it's in the middle of this crack, or wherever it pops up. And I'm like, see, I would have never have thought to put that plant there. Yeah. But nature did, and there it is, and it's thriving and doing well, and I did nothing of the work or the labor or the care to make that happen. So, it is fun having those in interspersed, and then they come back year after year without you doing anything as well, right? So, it's a win-win. You just let it go to you let the plant go to seed that year, and then the next year you get surprised with a whole new selection of them.
Yeah. And the sowing tip for the day is, if you want to plant something like a California poppy, do it now. Sow the seeds now. People wait until the spring, but they actually in nature they sit dormant until they get the winter rains, and then they start to germinate. So
Hey, Janet, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Lots of great information we shared. I am going to share the link to Sunset right now so that way people can get more information. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and hopefully the weather continues to sprinkle on you guys so you get a little bit more rain up there.
Great. Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Good information. And we did touch a few nerves in a positive way with people who were inspired by what she spoke of this morning in terms of the different plants, so on and so forth. We've got to catch up. We've got top of the hour break coming up on Biz Talk Radio right now. We're coming back at 6 minutes after on Biz Talk, even quicker on Facebook Live. Stay with us. This is Garden America. All righty, welcome back to Garden America. This is hour number 2, officially kicking things off. Means a lot more to you on Biz Talk Radio because right here on Facebook Live, it all usually blends together. So it's a very smooth transition. So again, welcome if you are tuning in for this hour on Biz Talk Radio. Welcome, and the rest of you on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us and being along for the ride this morning. We hope you enjoyed that interview with Janet. A lot of good information, Tiger.
Yeah, and on the chat, Lenore had mentioned we were talking about seeds, and Lenore had mentioned bulbs, and Leanne had kind of backed it up. And for those of you that follow the show, understand that I'm a huge fan of bulbs that naturalize in your garden as well. I've got a bunch of paper whites that are currently coming up now this time of year from owning a nursery is there are some benefits to it, and one of them is the plants that Janet mentioned that just get thrown away. If there's something I really enjoy, I just, before it goes to the dumpster, I can take it and just put it in my yard. And If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm not too worried about it. But freesias and paper whites are bulbs that I put into my landscape because they're going to come up year after year by themselves, reproduce. I love the fragrance. I love the colors. And I love the idea that I do nothing once I put them in the ground.
You just virtually no maintenance.
Yeah.
And you in many cases, like you say, you're saving a plant.
Yeah.
They would have got thrown away, right, or disposed of.
Yeah, and then truly, people try so hard to make their landscapes look natural, and seeds and bulbs are one of those plants that do it for you. Meaning, it's going to throw a flower into that crack, into that side area that you would have never planted. And the fact that it did it by itself and doesn't require irrigation and doesn't require you to maintain it is even better from the idea that you could try to plant all the little annuals you want, but if you don't water them and get them established, they're going to go away. Where those natural seeds, they just do it by themselves.
Yeah, much like before we got involved as human beings, trying to recreate or create ourselves something that we enjoy in terms of the landscape.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad. I mean, Janet was kind of hinting at the idea of what some of the growers are doing, which isn't exactly great for our industry or our field, I should say. It is great for our industry, but bad for the field of, like, for instance, you used to be able to buy alyssum, the white flowering alyssum at the garden center, and you planted it. And once you planted it, you never got rid of it. Which, some people like, some people don't like,
right?
Because it just reseeded itself. Well, nowadays, the alyssum that you buy doesn't reseed itself. They made it sterile. So when you plant it, it grows, it's good. But then once it dies at the end of the season, you don't get new alyssum plants like you used to. Sometimes there's a few that might pop up, but not what it used to be. And which is a good thing for some people, because maybe they didn't want alyssum growing in every part of their landscape. But for other people that wanted it to just reseed and regrow,
right,
it's not a good thing. And, breeders are finding that balance of, a plant that overpopulates, a plant that underpopulates, flowers a lot, but do your homework and you'll find stuff out there. So
I guess it all goes back to balance, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for.
Exactly.
Is that good balance? Want to make sure we're caught up in any questions or comments, Tiger? We're looking good?
Yes, we are.
All right, those on Facebook, whatever's on your mind, let us know. As we, here in California, as opposed to many other areas of the country right now, it's still sunny. It's going to be in the mid-70s this week. We are still gardening. We're doing things outside. And I know for a lot of people listening throughout the East Coast, Midwest, you're thinking to yourself, we're not doing anything until Mother's Day. We're not doing anything until next year. So we do appreciate that as well.
It's funny. We're already starting to see the weather reports with the El Nino forecast, happening, playing out. They're getting some rain in the northern part of the states, and they're kind of drier in the southern part, and all of that. They're already kind of following this weather pattern that's happening, and you don't realize there's other weather happening until you start watching football, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You start seeing games and you're like, wow, it's sunny and looks beautiful at that stadium. And then you watch that one and it's rainy and cold and miserable.
And we're getting into the blizzard part of the year
yep.
as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about the weather this week or the upcoming week, and it's like, here it is December. And it's going to be 77 degrees, I think, Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
At least here in San Diego.
Yeah, here
California.
in San Diego. Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah, it's funny. And, it's funny. I would drive down my street. In the front of my house, I've got a ornamental pear tree, a flowering pear tree that's in my front yard. And it's still full of leaves. But then I'll drive, and some of my neighbors have not ornamental pear, but like other dormant trees, crepe myrtles, different jacarandas and other things, and they're already starting to go fully dormant. I had mentioned up in Temecula that all the grapes are fully dormant now, and it's just funny how different areas, different plants go dormant at different times. Being in Southern California, we don't have the fall color change that other places do.
We have patches here and there.
It's very patchy, right?
And what are those trees on the 163 heading
Sycamores.
south? Those are sycamores.
Yeah.
So we do get some of that autumn color, fall color from them. But yeah, for the most part, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I don't want to say it's vanilla, but in a way it is, because we don't see such a drastic change from the seasons here in Southern California.
Exactly. It's funny. I mean, I think the one tree that Southern Californians have that give them that East Coast tree changing vibe is the liquid amber tree, which, liquid amber tree has kind of a maple leaf shape to it.
Right.
And there's varieties that turn from green to yellow. There's varieties that turn from green to yellow to red. There's varieties that turn from green to red. So you can get that little bit of a look, but the window is very short for that too, because it goes from warm to cold so quickly for us.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of your failures? Not personally, but something that didn't do as well as you wanted it to do.
So, this year I tried to incorporate more bulbs, dahlias. I tried to do an allium, didn't work out. So I had some failures that they did okay during the right time of year, but they didn't repopulate like I had hoped or what they were going to do. But I tried it. I knew it was a challenge. I knew it wasn't going to exactly be perfect, but then I had plants, some different agapanthus that I love because I love allium, and they won't grow here for us. So I think agapanthus is my next plant of choice to be able to make that happen.
With all the plants you have, though, can you honestly say that you put 100% effort?
No.
See that exactly
because kind of like Janet mentioned, I'm more of a survival. Like you plant it, and I'm more like right now is my planting time in my garden. Meaning, I plant plants in my yard right now because I am not going to water it. I am not going to take care of it. I am not going to help it get established.
You're waiting for that rain to come.
Exactly. And so I plant everything now. And as long as it survives over the wintertime, by next spring, it'll be good. If it doesn't survive from now until then it just wasn't meant to be.
So I had 2 plumerias, one just huge, thrived, just beautiful. The other one, nothing really happened this year.
Really?
Nothing. It started to bloom and it just kind of stopped, and it was in this sort of kind of a frozen period in terms of anything happening. It never changed. So, but that could change next year as well. I know it was kind of a funny year. We had late blooms on a lot of our plumerias this year, and I think you did too.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a weird year for plumerias in general because of the weather, the cool
kinda
weather,
like
rain.
Suspended animation, is that what I'm looking for? Just kind of, it got to a certain point and just stayed there.
Exactly. We got a couple of comments I want to share because people are talking about some really...
Yeah, we got about a minute, and then we can continue after the break as well.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all. Lenore wrote paper whites are coming up here also, but unfortunately seems like squirrels ate a lot of her freesias. And I don't know if this works for incorporating with the freesias, but if you incorporate paper whites are known to keep gophers away. So I don't know if they would keep squirrels away if you incorporate them into where your freezers are planted.
What does a paper white have to keep the
think
squirrels at bay?
I think, the gophers.
Gophers,
I know,
I'm sorry.
Because they can't eat the roots because they're it'll upset their stomach or make them sick or die or something. So I don't know if you planted them in the freezers. Maybe that would keep the squirrels away as well. But after the break, we'll chat more about some other things that people are mentioning.
It is break time for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. And again, the Facebook Live is heating up too with questions and comments, so keep them coming. As we continue, John is off today. It's yours truly, Brian Main. His truly, Tiger Palafox, back after these messages for our good friends on Biz Talk Radio. We have returned from the break. We trust you're having a good day. Thank you for making Garden America part of your life every now and then throughout the weekend or perhaps on some of the various platforms that you can listen to the replays. Again, gardenamerica.com. Check it out. We're going to Costa Rica in April, mid-April to the end of April. It's going to be a fantastic trip. The itinerary, everything is right there on our Facebook page. Facebook page, there are links, but on our website, there are links as well. So go to gardenamerica.com.
Let's see. Leanne wrote the Chinese pistache is excellent for fall color, and she's correct. Lenore also mentioned that the crepe myrtle leaves are changing in her area now, which give you some fall color. Kevin, time to get the snowblower running this morning. Waking up to 5 inches of snow on our driveway here in Coeur d'Alene. That's good exercise shoveling snow. Oh my God.
What a drastic change, because I went to school with Kevin, junior high school, and of course, being from San Diego, now he's in Idaho, and it's just a complete 180 in terms of the weather and how you garden.
Waking up to 5 inches of snow and having to clear it out of your driveway.
And knowing you've got some work ahead of you.
Yes.
Now, Kevin will be in Costa Rica with us.
Oh, fun.
He did sign up, so looking forward to that, Kevin.
In April, it'll still be cold there, but I don't know if they have snow there still in April. That's already done. Yeah.
In
Coeur d'Alene.
I
don't know.
Depends.
Lenore made a promise that she won't plant tomatoes next year. It was really bad this year. Lenore, just plant some cherry tomatoes and you'll be happy.
You know what? Just keep going. Now, why? I wonder why she had a hard time this year.
It was a tough year for tomatoes. Like we were talking about the plumeria, they didn't. it never got really warm during their flowering and ripening cycle. There was a lot of water, so it forced the plants to grow, but not really produce
But
flowers.
don't give up.
No, it's every year is
keep on
different.
going.
You could have
Keep
your
on
best year ever this year.
You never know.
And Carolyn, thank you for the comment about plants having to survive with minimal attention. That is my approach too, sometimes accidentally.
We call it that benign neglect.
Lisa, I don't know if you know the name of your lavender, but she wrote, my lavender actually reseeded itself the last couple of years. That is awesome, because I would say lavenders are one of those plants that breeders have bred to not reseed. And so it's really fun that you're getting new lavender plants. Be appreciative and proud of that. That's really
now
neat.
you said that they've bred some of these things not to reseed, and there's positive and negative to that. Why go all in? Why not just have some species that do and some don't? That way, the person that's interested in doing something with their garden has a choice.
Well,
it's like all or nothing, right?
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, I don't want to be the person that says this, but breeders and producers of plants, they want you to keep buying other ones.
Absolutely.
And if the plant,
right.
if you buy the plant and you only have to buy it once and then it reproduces itself, that's not a sustainable business model for them.
Right.
But that's where you can go to seed companies and find, like you're mentioning, those old varieties of plants that do reseed. And then you plant it, you grow it, you introduce it in your yard, and you will get, those plants that reseed. Now, with that, though, there is some level of expectations that you have to have that are lower than maybe the plants that are on the market. Meaning, if you buy a lavender plant that reseeds, that plant might not bloom or grow what you want it to do. But that's what it does, and you have to be happy with it. Where if you want that lots of flowers, that specific color, the specific size, you're going to be buying a plant that's a hybrid or been bred to do that, but it's not going to give you the reseeding aspect. It's not going to give you the regrowing aspect that maybe you want. So, it's what it is as far as the world we live in when it comes to plants. They're not, the breeder model is they want you to keep buying
exactly.
New plants. Yeah. Let's see. Plumerias only.
Ritas?
Whose? Yeah.
Rita.
What can you plant at the base of freesia to keep them from falling over? So freesia blooms, get very floppy. You're right. And one of the things that I saw when we were in England was they used different natural sticks and they use some little stick trellis structures.
It looks like it's part of the landscape, it's not intrusive.
And the freesias grow up into it, and then they get held up by that support.
It covers it up then, right after a while?
You don't see it anymore. Yeah, so that is a great way to incorporate, when you see them coming up, incorporate some sticks or some small trellis structures made of sticks that will then get covered up by the foliage, but then, they'll help support it. As far as if you were to plant something, osteospermum is, a African daisy, is a naturally green plant during this time of year with minimal blooms. But if the freesia comes up through the osteospermum, that plant will hold up the freesia as well. If you look at other kind of low growing perennials like that, also trying to think of what other ones there might be out there that have a medium height that the freesia can grow up through. But osteospermum is, I guess, the best one on top of my mind.
Or do the stick thing.
Yeah, or do the stick thing. My lavender dentata had reseeded a few times. I did have great pomegranates though, but pruned trees since it was dominating my little place. You always got to cut back for space, right? And I think we're all caught up at the moment. Lots of fun stuff happening, in the garden right now, especially for us in Southern California. It's a big time of year for us. I get it on the East Coast. They're winding things down. There's already areas covered in snow. They're done for this season.
Yeah, I like the fact that I'm getting my what I call my early winter, late fall hibiscus blooms every year at this time, because most everything else is dormant. and then when you go outside and see that huge hibiscus bloom, it kind of lights everything up.
Yeah,
I sent you the
definitely.
picture, you and John, I think.
Yeah.
And it's in the newsletter this week, by the way. If you get the newsletter, check it out. The hibiscus bloom that I sent John to put in the newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, go to our website, gardenamerica.com, and you can sign up. It arrives every Friday. Keeps you up to date on various guests, great articles that John writes, and a lot of information in terms of what's growing and how to grow it.
Yeah, always good information. And, the newsletters get archived onto our website. So if you go to the website for articles, you can go in there and search for topics that you also
Yes.
have. And chances are that there is a article topic, a blog post, something in there about whatever it is that you're looking for. And it'll direct you to an article that John wrote, or maybe someone else in the field had wrote regarding your idea, your plant, your topic that you're looking for. And so, and if it's not on there, we would love to hear about that topic in the sense of,
Right.
hey, I'm wondering about this. So take a look at that as well. As a matter of fact, I'm just going through and
You want to take a break? We can take a break.
okay, because I'm going to find there's a message that somebody sent to us. So I'm going to try to find that right now.
Okay, we're going to take this time to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. Do stay with us. Facebook Live, questions, comments, keep them coming. Whatever's happening, let us know. But thank you for tuning in. Again, we've got a couple of segments still to come on this weekend as we broadcast live from the iHeart Media Studios in beautiful, sunny Southern California, San Diego to be exact. Back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. We have returned. Yes, indeed. 2 more segments. This segment right here that we're kicking off is our longer segment, so plenty of time for those questions, those comments, whatever's on your mind as Tiger continues to do his research. Live research, unless you're listening to this pre-recorded
I was
show.
trying to find this because we got a message, and it was from a listener, Christine, that said, "Good morning. I'm listening to the radio show on Sunday morning in Reading, and you mentioned Rose Biblia on Facebook. Is there any way you can message me back the actual spelling? It took me someplace that I did not want to go the way I had spelt it. Your show was awesome as usual."
And that's our good friends in Reading who I guess play this show on Sundays.
Yeah. And,
Beautiful.
And we replied back, "Hey, Christine, you were listening to the show with Greg Lowry, and the Rose Biblio was hosted by Rudolph Bergman and loaded with all kinds of rose information." And we shared a link to the topic, and it's rose.shoutwiki.com, and it's kind of just Rose Biblio. And so please, like, if you're middle of the week, you're listening to our show, you have a question, a topic, send us a message, then we try to get back to you.
Sure.
To be able to kind of help you out with that. So
You
just
can
an
also
example.
email John. He acts like he doesn't want all these emails, but he's very happy
He
and very
loves it.
accommodating to answer, and that's john@gardenamerica.com.
Yeah, so lots of
Ways to do it.
ways to get in touch with us, and it helps us keep just this morning one of our listeners was sharing something about maintaining her tools, getting ready in the wintertime. And in the wintertime, a lot of your garden tools will start to get rusty. They're out there, they get wet. So there's specific ways to take care of them in the wintertime. Store them in sand and oil mixtures so the blades stay from rusting. Sharpen them so that way through the year they're making good cuts properly through the entire year and not just once a year. Just using different greases and storage options for them as well. And people don't think about it all the time for Southern California, but we need to maintain our tools here just as much as everywhere else, because I feel like we even use them more.
Right, well, absolutely.
We're always using our garden tools. We never put them away for the wintertime.
No,
Yeah,
I can
so-
never think of a time when I did that.
So you have to take good care of them year round. Otherwise, they'll fail on you.
And good gardening tools, so important. It just makes the job so much easier. You're not
right.
fighting with something dull, fighting with something that doesn't work. Seriously.
I was delivering a Christmas tree last weekend, and classic situation. I'm delivering this Christmas tree, and it's too tall for the room, and I didn't even. I carry a pair of pruners with me, but I just left them in the truck, and so I'm in the house, and she's like, "Oh, I got some pruners," and she hands me this pair of pruners, and we're not talking a massive, thick top of a Christmas tree. It's just a normal branch. I mean, to some idea, I get even a really good pair of scissors.
We're talking about the top of the tree, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A good pair of scissors would cut it. The pruners that she gave me were horrible. It just bent it and didn't cut it. And I was like, oh no, like it just made the job so much more difficult.
Ask her when the last time she used them?
Yeah, right.
Or say, hey, I have some good, here's my advice.
Yeah.
Throw these away.
I told her, I was like, yeah, these just need to go in the trash can. They can't make a cut. And
so what'd you finally do?
Well, I had to go get my pruners and make a cut because, it just bent it over. It didn't even cut through. I would have been doing a better job gnawing on it with my teeth.
Right? Exactly. Wow.
Oh, but yeah. So, good pair of, good set of tools in general.
Cindy likes the Felco.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, now, what were the ones that John gave me?
There were some,
these were
Japanese
old,
brand,
rusty, old, but I'll tell you, they work so much better than a lot of new pruners that I've purchased in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, these are quality, and they still cut like a knife going through butter.
Yeah. And, Velco, Corona, different brands out there all have their pros and cons. Velco is great because you can change out all the parts. And so, if you have a problem with the spring or the blade, easily to change out and, start over again, where, Coronas are all one piece. So if something breaks on it, it's you gotta replace the whole pruner. And then sharpen, you don't realize like the metal that they're made from, sometimes they don't resharpen. Where Felco and Corona blades, you can resharpen. Some of the other less expensive tools, once they become dull, there's no amount of sharpening you can do to make them as good as they once were.
Hey, backtracking, I think I saw a question from Rick a while back about what to spray on fruit trees.
Oh, okay.
And I guess he's talking about
the dormant oil
this time of the
spray
year.
This time of year. Yeah, I wonder if Rick is getting into the time of year where he's starting to when. Oh, he's asking, when should we spray our fruit trees? So, Rick, the best time to use those dormant sprays for fruit trees or dormant plants in general, because you're protecting against disease and bugs, is when the plant is in full dormancy. So for us, that doesn't happen until January and February. For you, Rick, if the plant has like already kind of set into full dormancy, you can spray it now. You don't want to wait too long though into the springtime where now you're getting, growth emerging, because again, you need it to happen during, when the plant is full dormant. And, for some areas of people are worried because the winters are so strong that they could have it like washed off or not as effective. So, thinking about all those kinds of things, depending on where you're at, you're probably looking at, January, February for dormant oil sprays, dormant lime, sulfur, copper, different things like that you would use for dormant trees and shrubs.
Very good.
And my phone turned off, so let's see what else. My camellias are full of buds. Love that they bloom when nothing else is much happening in the garden. And that is so true. Camellias are a fall winter flower.
Yeah.
And also the thing to remember too is do not fertilize your camellias when they are blooming, because it actually shortens their bloom cycle, meaning you're going to push off all your blooms quickly if you fertilize during their bloom. So let them bloom naturally. Don't fertilize them, and pick up your fertilizing cycle back up again maybe in the springtime. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And what else? I did have great pomegranates, pruned trees, and it went down to the bottom. Wow, there's so many people having fun on here.
I know. It's great, isn't it? I love it.
Yeah.
The chit-chatting back and forth.
Yeah. All right. Velcro pruners are the best. Just buy paper white bulb for gophers. Will they multiply? So yes, paper whites for me
Will
naturally,
multiply.
Naturalize. So they will multiply and they'll just kind of keep growing, and very controllable and attractive plant. So yes, paper whites will continue to.
Now with John's gopher situation, have we talked about that as a semi-solution for him?
So the deal with that is, if you plant a paper white, it's not guaranteed to keep the gophers away from your other plants. It's the way I kind of equate it is like if you're going to go out to dinner and the restaurant is located next to something not attractive to you, like a trash station,
sure,
a auto repair shop or whatever it is, right? Well, you still might go into that restaurant because the food is good and you want it,
right?
But it's not located in an area you really want to eat, and you're not super happy that you're doing it, but you're still going to go and eat there if you're that hungry, right?
Right.
And that's the same thing with paper whites. So in order to really repel a gopher, is you have to incorporate them into a lot of areas of your garden to keep the gophers out of the area as a whole, because they're simply making it not attractive for gophers to go into the area. But they can still go and get your plants that they really want. And if they're that hungry,
of course,
they're going to make the trip.
Now, what about using them as a border?
That's
around your property.
That's what I'm saying.
Kind of what you're talking about.
If you were to completely border your property with paper whites, you would definitely protect them to some degree.
To some degree, because they'll find a way to get in.
Yeah,
no
like
doubt.
I say, they'll just find a way around, and then once they're in, they're in. But it's better to incorporate them into your garden,
right?
So that way, they act as like a repellent throughout. Because acting as a border is a good idea, but they'll still cross it.
All right, break time. We have one more segment coming up. Quick show.
Yeah.
A lot of activity on Facebook Live. We appreciate that, and those on Biz Talk Radio who tune in. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to take a break. One more segment coming up here as we continue. John is off. He's back next week. It's Brian Main, Tiger Palafox here on Garden America. Thank you so much for joining us. Back after these messages. Okay, we've made it to the last segment as Garden America continues on this weekend. Be sure to go to our website, gardenamerica.com. Those that have signed up for the trip to Costa Rica, if you know anyone else who'd like to go, let them know. Point them to our website, gardenamerica.com. Seats are filling up fast. Going to be a fantastic time. April 21st through the 29th of 2024. It's going to sneak up on us very quickly. Before you know it, we'll be jetting off to Costa Rica. Tiger?
So one of the things I've started to do to prep for that trip is, I got this idea last time when we took our trip to England, but it was new to me and I didn't quite know. But one of the things that I'm excited to do for everybody that's going to be attending this year is every day I'm going to have a sheet that I'm going to hand out to the people as we meet in the mornings, and there's going to be things that are on that sheet that people asked about the day before, because that always happens when we're on trip.
Right.
People ask, what is this plant? How did this blah, whatever it is. And so it's always nice to kind of have that information as you go. So the day before, like our highs and maybe lows and, some of the topics that we kind of covered, we'll kind of, so that way I can kind of share it with everybody. But then also I'll have some of the things that we're going to go to that day and what people can look for. And what people can kind of expect.
Got it.
So it's kind of like a little bit of an itinerary, but it's going to have more of a personalized aspect of it. And also it's going to cover a lot because, part of the reason why you go on this trip is to learn about the gardens, to learn about the plants, to learn about the environment that you're in, and to get inspired and take
Sure.
those ideas home. And so I thought that would be a great way for the people attending the trip to be able to have something tangible with them as they're going. And then maybe bring it home with them. So,
Yeah.
I've started to work on that. So I'm starting to go
Good for
through the
you. Look at
day-by-day
you.
itinerary
Wow.
and see where we're going and what we're going to see, so that way it can be prepared.
Put a lot of work into that. All right, why don't you go ahead and read Kevin from Idaho's got a Facebook situation or question, and see if you can figure that one out.
Kevin from Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What is Kevin said? Let me see. The newest here. Oop, let me
Has
go
to do with the Facebook format, how
Oh,
it's changed, how he
goodness,
watches
Kevin. Facebook somehow changed the show's format display, so I don't see the listener comments until the show is over with. When I scroll down to view comments, I lose the live broadcast and have to scroll back up. What's up with that? So
I don't
you
know
know,
because I have to click to expand, and then I can see the comments myself on the right-hand side.
yeah. So one of the things with Facebook I've noticed too, when it comes to comments, is how you're logged in. I know that sometimes if you're not a follower of a page, or if you're not a friend of someone, you won't see their comments. So for instance, like there's comments on here, and if you're not a friend in your own personal connection, because those people have privacy settings, they don't share their comments.
But I think up until this time, he was seeing them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So checking out how you're logged in your privacy
Yeah, I
settings,
gotcha.
because
Okay,
they
sure.
change sometimes.
Yeah.
Is where I would start. And then the other thing is I did notice this morning there was an update for our cameras. We use an application, Logitech Mevo,
Right.
and there was an update, and I've learned to not do that update when I find it that morning up, because sometimes it throws our show in for a loop. But maybe sometimes I'll update it this week.
So you'll
And-
do it right, and then
Right.
what? That gives it time to what?
Well, sometimes when we do it,
We've
it
had a
messes
problem.
things up, and it gives me days to figure out those problems if I do it during the week.
Right.
So maybe it's something that is part of our show now, because there is an update. So Kevin, I'll take a look at that for you, and
Right.
hopefully by next week I can have
Yeah,
some
and then
kind
of course log
solution.
on again next week and see. But yeah, we've come into that situation many times where there was an update and we did it.
Yeah.
We either can't get the show off, or the cameras aren't working, or something's weird.
Yep.
And when they never tell anybody,
Nope.
they just do it, and you've got to figure it out.
Yeah. Real quick, I know we got wrapping up. Linda mentioned, aren't daffodils go for deterrents too? Daffodils, paper whites, narcissus, those are all in the same category as plants. So yes, they are. And Colleen, I have to replace our camellia. What is the best time to plant a new one? After they're blooming. So you're getting close. Maybe, planting now is good, but the chances are is you're going to buy one in the garden center with blooms, and it's going to lose all of its flowers. So you can do that knowing that you just want to replace it. But if you wait till a little bit later in the wintertime, is a good time to plant them as well. And I love the gloves you shared probably a year ago. Use them daily. Those gloves, remember we had them on the program? They're a nice nitrile glove that protect your arms. I use those too. Those are wonderful gloves, and a great Christmas present if you're looking for a Christmas gift for a gardener. Talk about a good gift to give to someone. And they weren't expensive. I think they were like $10 or something like that. So they were just a long-sleeved nitrile glove. Very easy to use and flexible.
Lenore asking if too late to plant let's see here.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Too late to plant a lawn with seeds?
Yes. So Lenore, if you were to do annual ryegrass, it'll probably come up, because they don't mind that annual ryegrass seed comes up even when it's cool. Not when it's too cold, but when it's cool. But a fescue grass won't come up during this time of year. It's too cold. It'll take forever, and you'll be discouraged, and it's a lot of wasted seed. So you want to wait till that starts to kind of more warm up. Depending on where you're at. I mean, obviously they grow. We had the sod company on, Marathon Sod on a few weeks ago, and they grow grass year round.
Oh, yeah, year round, right.
But they're located in Lompoc in a valley, and they take care of it where they make it grow kind of 12 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are definitely in areas where the grass seed won't grow when it's too cold.
I guess that's it.
Wow.
We're going to stay right on time. How about that, huh?
Perfect.
We got a lot
All
accomplished.
right.
It was good, and our guest was fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of information. So thank you for tuning in, those on Biz Talk Radio, those of you watching us right now on Facebook Live. We really appreciate it. Go to our website, whether it's for the Costa Rica tour or just want to click around and see some of the various things we have happening. The website changes all the time. So, again, that's gardenamerica.com. And for those of you that want to watch the show again, this afternoon, this show will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. You can watch this show and previous shows as well. Also links on our page, gardenamerica.com. For the entire crew, John Bagnasco, he's back next week. Tucker Palafox, I'm Brian Main. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again next week right here with your good friends, your garden buddies here on Garden America. Take care.